Convo, Southwest. Trilogy 1, 6, 17 pages, I think. Oh, is it? And then there's one page. But
Hi, Bridget. Me too.
I had it on mute. I'm sorry. Who said hi, Bridget?
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Hi.
Oh, and here I can share our video.
If you want to.
There. Okay.
Here I am. Hi.
Hello.
That's all right. That's all right, Liz.
My back is in terrible.
Okay. Well, it's 12 o'clock, and I want to use our time really wisely today because we have a guest with us from the Trilogy and Network of Care folks out in San Diego, and he came to present to us at a learning community. So I just want to, I think I'm going to be able to capture who's all on the line today. So really today it's about hearing from Eric Butler and about this potential for us to have this Trilogy website developed for us here in Southwest Wisconsin. So I've sent some materials out. I heard some people talking about those materials as we were just getting on the line here. So, but I want to use Eric's time wisely, our time wisely. So I'm going to let him, unless there's anything else that we need to say quickly, like Liz and Robin or anybody, something quick that they need to say first.
Nope, I have nothing.
Because we'll have some conversation afterwards. We've heard from Eric towards the end of this phone call. So, so I'm going to turn right over to Eric and let him give us his demo about what this can do for us.
Thanks, Bridget. So just as a clarification, we're actually up in the Bay Area in San Rafael. And after the winter we just had with all the rain, I actually kind of wish we were down in San Diego, to be honest. That was a lot of water. So thanks for the time.
Not as much as we got.
Yeah. No polar vortex or any crazy stuff like that here either. So I thought we'd use the time, maybe spend 30, 40 minutes just running you through everything that the Network of Care is, and then we can have any Q&A, afterwards. If something comes up or is confusing along the way, please just chime in and make sure that, I've got everybody on the same page. And then one last little housekeeping thing. Sometimes the web meeting doesn't keep up with, my mouse clicks and things. So if it seems like I'm talking about something that isn't being showed on the screen, by all means, please chime in and let me know that I need to slow down and let everything catch up. So with that, I think I'll just go ahead and get started. As some of you may be aware, we do have a customer or two in Wisconsin already. Beth Newell's group here is one that we've done, and this is, just so everyone knows, the older view, kind of look and feel of our site. We're in the middle of upgrading it to all of our customers to a new look and feel that looks like this. And so you may see me jump back and forth between the old and the new depending on what I'm showing, but just keep in mind any new sites that we build will look like this. And one of the things besides making it be more contemporary is that it also works better on all devices. So tablets, phones, it doesn't really matter what the size is of the screen. It's going to automatically scale and work for whatever gadget that you happen to be visiting the Network of Care on. So with that, I'll just jump into it. So just real briefly, just a quick 30-second history. The company's been around for quite a while. I got started in 2000, started in California through a grant program in aging, but it quickly spread to mental health, behavioral health, veterans, children and families, a number of other different flavors of social services, if you will, but the whole concept is still the same. What we really do and what we specialize in here is building and maintaining a vetted service directory in partnership with our customer, and we present that in a website that's easy to use for the public, and we pair that service directory and provider information with a bunch of other value-added information, the primary thing being a robust health information library. And so this will all make sense in a minute. And then in addition, we've got a lot of self-help tools and outreach and other things that I'll touch on as well. But really, the heart and soul of it is the service directory that we help you build and maintain. We do a very good job of making sure that all of the entries in there are up to date. Depending on the size of the service directory, we've got different means of keeping it up to date. I'll show you a little bit, how folks out there, service providers and people in the public can help us with that effort. But we also have internal tools where, we can audit. Oftentimes on sizable service directories, we'll just break it up into quarters. And every single quarter we'll send out a number of emails looking for updates and making sure people can verify, these service providers can verify that their information is correct. If we don't get responses, then we start picking up the phone and calling folks and making sure that everything is still up to date. And so that's a big part of what we do, is not only helping you flesh out a fully robust service directory for your service area, but also making sure that it's up to date, because that's a big deal and can be a big chore for a lot of our customers. So that's what we bring to the table. So anyway, with that, let's just jump in and take a look at the site. Obviously, as I said, the service directory is a big part of it. So that's really where the main focus of the new design looks. I'm going to show you real quickly here what on the old design. A children and family site oftentimes doesn't really isn't that much different from our behavioral health site, except for some of the categories may be different. We may have added in, more of the children and family focus, but oftentimes they have a lot of the same types of entries in their service directory. And so, in this case, on the old version, folks could pick a topic here or search by keyword, or really what was the most popular way was just digging down through these categories. And so, this is a children and family site in Texas. You can see the customer always picks these categories. So some of our customers may only have 8 or 10 of these broad categories. Some of them, like Tarrant here, has gone pretty granular and broken these down into quite a few, smaller categories. And at this point, if you want, you can dig down deeper. And at this point, once you pick a category, we present to the user the AIRS taxonomy category. So the AIRS taxonomy, for many of you probably already know, it's this little number here. It's basically the Dewey Decimal System of service providers, and it puts them in a particular category. And we include the descriptions of what those are for folks that may be in the INR industry. But then at that point, the customer or the user out there in the world can get in here and take a look and then get and see the list of 5 providers that match that actual category. One of the things, and then here we can dig in and see a detailed service listing. Some of these vary from customer or from provider to provider. This one, as you can see, is rather robust. On the old site, this was typically how folks would get to and learn, who can provide services or find particular service providers in their community that they were looking for. One of the things that we learned is that was, 4 clicks deep. There was a lot of clicking there to look for what they were trying to find. And then it didn't really help necessarily to have to go in here and then see where they were on a map to see if they were close to where you might live. And so what we've done in the new version to try to streamline some of this is really focus on doing a keyword search. The categories are there. If somebody wants to do the drill down because they're not quite sure what to do or what to type, we obviously present those to them here. But the whole idea here is to quickly and easily, I'm just going to do a generic search here for depression, hit search, and it's going to pull up the list of results here on a map. And so this is one of our Maryland sites that I'm using here. that we often use for demos. As you can see, doing something pretty generic like depression is going to pull up 221 agency results, which might not be that helpful to try to sift through those and see what's happening. So being able to show those in a map view so a user can zoom in and maybe find one that's close to their house. Like maybe I live down here and maybe I'm interested in the All Joshua Outpatient Treatment Program. Or more importantly, when there's a lot of agency results, we default here to the category results. So someone can look through here and we present to them this menu of categories for them to help them fine tune or drill down into a more specific topic at hand. Before I go there, I'll just point out, we also like to present any related content here because the whole point of the network of care is to find those services that are local to you and your community, but also to learn more about the condition that's affecting you or a loved one that you're seeking help for. And so this is where we can present, related library topics here out of that health library that I mentioned. I'll show you this in depth in a minute. But right here, one search, and we can find not only service providers, but we can also learn more about the condition and symptoms and action steps. And these are all things that are part of the network of care that I'll cover here in a minute. So I'm just going to pick one here: adolescent youth counseling. So here we can see, we've got quite a few, 60 agencies. So again, instead of having to dig through them one by one, we present the map view so we can come in here and see, more specifically, what these service providers are about. And so, here, I just clicked here because maybe this is close to where I live. So I can click on this particular service provider, and of course, it doesn't necessarily have a ton of information. This varies from provider to provider, right? As I showed you here, this organization here in Texas gave us a lot of information. We were able to glean a lot. Some, have relatively short descriptions depending, this varies from provider to provider. But anyway, details, so target group, who they serve, if they're if we can get the information about, any service weight or if they're accepting new clients, it looks like, this provider is. And then obviously the important stuff, phone numbers, fax numbers, a website. In this case, it actually has an email, so someone can just hit, can click this, it'll pull up their email client, and they can just quickly send an email if that's what they're more comfortable in doing. And then, obviously the location and address, if that's something that, this is obviously going to be somewhere that you want to pay a visit, being able to get to it is pretty important. So I'll just briefly touch here. While we're here, we always provide a method for service providers to update their own listing. So if I'm associated here, if I'm Kelly McNew and this is my, I'm with this provider, or, I work with this provider and I noticed that, maybe we moved down the street to a new office park or something, I can do a quick update listing here, and they have the ability to, I'll just pick one. They've got the ability to go through here and edit this listing. And it's basically a form, so they can enter in any of the changes that may be applicable, and they hit submit. What that does is it goes to us first. We just make sure that it's not a 14-year-old kid pranking us or trolling us. And then if it looks legitimate, like a legitimate change request, then we go ahead and contact that service provider, say, hey, we noticed you have a new address, is this address information correct? And once we get that confirmation from them, we'll go ahead and make the change in the database so it's reflected in the website immediately. Likewise, I'll just touch on this as well. If there's a new kid on the block, a new agency comes to town, a new service provider opens up shop and they want to be included in the network of care, it's a similar process. They can go through this add new agency process, which is the same form essentially that they go through and enter in all their pertinent information. We've got the I'm not a robot routine at the bottom to try to prevent robots or bots from just doing weird stuff. And then that comes to us first. We do that initial vetting just to make sure that it's a legitimate request. We will contact the service provider and say, hey, are you guys real? And then if it looks like it's something that, might belong, it always goes back to the customer. We never put anything in this service directory without the customer's thumbs up or thumbs down. You own this data. We do not. You can download, and I'll show you, there's a tool where you can export out the entire service directory. You can distribute it however else you want. We don't own this. We don't get revenue from hits or clicks. There's no ads on the network of care. This is entirely a site that you own, that we maintain at your direction. So I just want to make sure that that's really clear to everybody. So that's briefly how the service directory works. Going back to the home page, as I mentioned, we also have the category drill down, which works in a similar fashion. So, if you just start going through here and picking which categories make the most sense to you. And then once you get a list of the service providers that you're looking for, you can come in here and take a look at them specifically, one by one or whichever one's close to your house. So in a nutshell, that's how that part of the site works. So going back to just a keyword search here and related content. So we do provide related content for searches, and so you can also get to the library if you want through through categories through the library. But oftentimes, the whole idea here is to learn more about the condition that's affecting you. And so if you want, I'm just going to pick on the depression category here, and then this is where you can get in and start to learn things about depression that you may be suffering, or a loved one may be suffering. We also provide any related articles, so maybe it really isn't, depression that it's, maybe it's generalized anxiety disorder. And so you can come in here and learn more about whatever the symptoms and, any of those other things that may help you learn more about the condition and figure out what you can do to help yourself. And so, that's really what the health library is all about. We get this from a company called HealthWise. That's where most of the content comes from. You may have seen HealthWise articles. If you have, for instance, I have Kaiser, and when I log into my Kaiser, I see a lot of HealthWise articles, behind the login there. We have the only public-facing, publicly available portal for HealthWise topics. So it's similar to WebMD or any of the others, but it's actually far more, it's highly vetted. It's obviously written by medical professionals. It's updated 4 times a year. There aren't any articles in there that are, older than, I believe, 2 or 3 years. So it's just a great place to get trusted information. So they have pretty much everything from physical health, mental health, children and families type of related content, as well as, medical medications, learning about medical tests. I've recently had some, over the last year or so, I've been dealing with some heart issues. I actually had heart surgery in early January. So it was pretty helpful for me to look up a lot of the crazy medications that I'm on for that in this, it's the largest medicine formulary in the world, I believe. And it's just a really straightforward, easy to understand place to get that information. I think everything's written at like the 8th to 9th grade level. So even a dummy sales guy like me can understand what the pills I'm taking is doing to my body. So likewise, any medical tests, if you want to learn about upcoming tests, it's very helpful. Interactive tools. We provide a lot of interactive tools here, health, fitness, lifestyle checkup tools, things like that. So folks can do some things to self-evaluate, if you will. Symptom checker as well. These are just wizard-driven tools through HealthWise, that you can come through here, and try to figure out what it is that, that may be affecting your loved one. And then you can link out to specific tasks or, specific articles and things like that based on, kind of what the results are. So that's a bit about the library. If you go on the home page here, we've actually wrapped up some of the health articles in what we call learning centers. So these are basically conglomerations of health topic libraries or health library topics that have been brought together for a specific topic at hand. And so I usually show, depression was one that we looked at, but recovery, I think, is the one that's probably one of the more unique ones. The recovery one actually includes, we've worked with a lot of our national partners, NAMI, National Institute of Mental Health, to pull together some of their trainings and learning modules into e-learning modules. And so I'll just click on one here, and it just loads up, you know, an auto play here. And if I turn on my volume, I'm not sure if it'll come through. But it's narrated, and you can run through slide by slide, self-paced to learn more about the topic at hand. And so these can be really helpful for folks to get a good view. You know, they might have reading issues or things, and so, you know, they can just click on these and have them run through, you know, module at a time, slide at a time on these specific topics. So we've got, you know, some of these from NAMI, some from the National Institute of Mental Health, and then any of the other miscellaneous ones like the Wellness Recovery Action Plan from Mary Ellen Copeland. We actually worked with her directly, and she, you know, we recorded her walking through all the different steps to develop your own Wellness Recovery Action Plan, for those that know about Mary Ellen and some of the work that she's done. So that's a little bit about the learning centers, because those are a really big piece of what the network of care is. You know, another one I'll just briefly show is the pain management opioids. This is a huge issue in certain parts of the country, probably everywhere, but in more certain parts of the country more than others. And so this is, you know, the whole idea here is to pull all this stuff together, you know, find services, you know, in your community for, you know, for yourself if you're dealing with pain issues, or if you've got a loved one that's dealing with opioid addiction issues, and then obviously videos and things where you can learn more, you know, about these drugs and, you know, maybe some alternatives to these drugs. So that's really been something that a lot of our customers asked for, and we were pretty responsive in getting that pulled together with HealthWise's participation and added to the learning centers themselves. So real quickly, I'm just going to jump in to some of the other value-added information that we've included. Legislate, one of the founders of the company, was a former state legislator here in California. He actually sponsored the first mental health parity bill in the country here in California. So I'm sorry, I've got some sirens here driving down the street. Okay, better. So this is something, just being able to see any bills that are in progress in your state. If you want to reach out to elected officials, you know, we provide a little tool to do that. Any legislative calendar. So for those that want to get more actively involved in making changes in their community and their state, you know, we just provide some content for them to do that. Likewise, links is just a service that we provide. You know, we curate thousands and thousands of links, and so, you know, we work with our customer to make sure that, you know, any local links that they feel are important or applicable are included. And then typically, you know, through all of our experience, you know, we fill out the state and national links that are related to the topic at hand, in this case, mental health. It's just a quick and, you know, it's a trusted, vetted place to find information, and really helps folks not have to go through Google and filter through 157,000 results or more when they try to search for something in the search engines. So, you know, it's kind of come full circle. The company got started when those search engines weren't very good, and it was a really helpful way to just go to a place like the network of care to find information. And now it has almost the opposite value, wherein the search engines are almost too good. It's almost difficult sometimes to find what you're looking for unless you're really good at, you know, a lot of the keywords and other filters within the search engine. So, you know, we've just done a lot of that work and filtered it down to, you know, these trusted, vetted lists of links for our customers. And so we work with you to figure out what the local stuff is and what's most important to you. Insurance. This is just some general information about insurance for folks that are interested. You know, and so any state or federal programs that they might qualify for, private insurance. So if you want to, you know, if you have partnerships with private insurance companies or things like that, you can link to those. You know, this one, just some information about Parity Act, and then, you know, some parity laws in every jurisdiction. So those are just some insurance information for folks, because obviously health insurance is a big sticky issue for a lot of folks in this country, and, you know, our system is, you know, could obviously use some improvements in certain places and for certain populations. Support and advocacy. So again, this is, you know, just any local links that have to do with, you know, support or advocacy. If you want to get more involved, You know, these are places that we provide folks to learn more about that. And then lastly, My Account. We've referred to this in the past as a personal health record, which it is a fully HIPAA HL7 level compliant personal health record. You can store anything in there that you want very securely. You know, you can share that with a loved one or the certain components of it. It more often is used as a care coordination tool. So, you know, for instance, if I have a sibling and we're trying to care for an elderly parent, one of us may not live close to the parent. It can be helpful to have that information in a secure, centralized location that we can both access it when necessary. But really, the primary use for the personal health record is through the call center application, which I'll briefly show you here in a quick second. It'll make more sense. So in a nutshell, that's really what the network of care, the public-facing website's all about. It's a service directory that's easily searchable through keywords or through categories. It provides map views to find things that are close to your home. You know, we pair that with the health library and other associated information that allows you to learn more about that condition for yourself or your loved one, and then all of the other value-added information for the topic at hand. So there's a couple of other things that is included with the network of care. One is on any of these sites. So, you know, like here on the Tarrant Care, on the old one, on the old look and feel, any of the custom content that you may have. It could be, you know, things specific to your region, initiatives you have. It could be a health fair down at the senior center over the weekend, come get your flu shot type of thing. You know, we provide that type of publishing free of charge. It's included in the annual maintenance. And so on the new site, typically, you know, these could go here in announcements, you know, down here, you know, we provide some real estate on the site for you to be able to publish just about anything you want, and then, you know, separate web pages or things like that. How you do that is through these work requests. So it's just a simple login. You come through this little portal, and then, you know, you can say, hey, URL a page to change, or you can say new page. You can do a quick description of work. If you've got files, you know, graphics, JPEGs, a PDF, or things like that, you can upload that file and just hit submit to us. And then that goes in the queue. You know, typically we try to fill these in, you know, in 24 to 48 hours tops. We're pretty responsive on these. And so, you know, here's one with our San Diego customer. You know, you can see here he wants to add a little bit of, you know, an attached document, you know, about a board meeting. And then you can also see all the completed requests. So if you just want to go back and, you know, in time and see, you know, all of the different things that you've asked for have gotten done, you know, you can run a report, you know, if you want to see all the activity for the site. So that's really the work request component on the back end. We just want to make it quick and easy for you to ask us to make changes to your site. One of the other things that we provide, as you can see up here on the top, is the site traffic. I went ahead and loaded one of these up because sometimes, particularly, I show the San Diego one and it takes a minute to pull up all the site metrics. But at any point in time, you can see how much how people are viewing your site. And so you can see all the top pages. You can see the visits per day here. Granted, this is San Diego. It's a pretty populous county with a large population of folks that need help. And so the site is also heavily promoted through their local 211. So it's one of our more heavily used sites. And so you can see all the top pages that are used and utilized, but probably most importantly is the service directory. So you can see all of the detailed service providers, service listings. These are basically online referrals. And you can see the amount of views and things like that. You can report out on these. So if there's, you know, some agencies can get reimbursements for these online referrals, or they just need them for annual reporting purposes or whatnot. You can always you can export all of this stuff out as an Excel spreadsheet and then incorporate that into any other document or reports that you may have. The call center, this is something that's included with the network of care. It's not a public-facing application, obviously. The whole idea here is some of our customers have you know, a call center application already. They may run a call center. They may use something like iCarol or any of the other vendors that are out there. But we've also have a lot of customers that have partner agencies, partner entities that they work with. that may not have the resources necessarily for software like that, but are operating a call center and would like some better tools to manage those activities and be able to potentially report out, seek reimbursement, things like that. And so, we do provide this for free. We'll spin up as many instances of these for our customers as they ask us. It's included in the annual maintenance with the network of care, and it is just what it sounds like. You've got the ability here to go through and and take calls. Here, I'll just click on one here. So it's got intake forms. You can control these intake forms through a drag and drop process. It's a wizard. You don't have to have us customize these for you. You can customize these however you want. There's a form for the caller and the consumer because they might be two different people. You may be calling for a loved one. But the whole idea here is that you collect the intake information, and then you've got the referral. So this is the same service directory that we build for our customers. It's on the public-facing side, but here, we provide it here on the back end. So these are the categories, that the customer gets to choose, and then at that point it flips over to the errors category. But we can also, if folks are more comfortable with the errors taxonomy, we provide that view of the exact same data. So they can come through here, and then dig around in here and find, the actual service provider that they're looking for. And then once they get to them, they can add that referral to the record for this particular call. And then in the end, there's a finish call step. So if you can make any notes that are important, you can create any follow-up tasks if those are important with a date, so it can remind the person in the call center to make that follow-up call. The referrals would show up here, and this is really where that personal health record comes into play, because at this point, if you have the email for the caller or the consumer, you can save these referrals to a new personal health record that will then send a message to to that email address. The first step would be the person would, form, the password, make it secure, and then they would have their own, basically electronic health record that stores things like, any referrals they may have, or quite frankly, if they're back here on the network of care, you have the ability to save, like detailed service listings or health library topics into your PHR, or as we're calling it, My Account on the new version, because you may not necessarily want to have bookmarks in your browser about sensitive health topics that might, alarm your children, or, it might be, there might just be privacy concerns about some of those things that you might want to bookmark. And so it's just a secure place to store them there in My Account. So that in a nutshell really is what the network of care is. It's the public-facing side. It's the portal tools on the back end for our customers to be able to manage any custom content, see the site traffic for the site itself. We've got the listing manager here, where somebody can come in here and I'll just real quickly. So you can come in here and do any searches if you want, but you can also, activity report, so you can see, what's been going on in the service directory. You can export the listings or providers at any point in time. And if our customers want to do edits themselves, say they've got a new batch of providers that they just want to upload in there and have show up on the network of care, they have the ability to do that themselves as well. And so, we're more than happy to do all of the maintenance for you, but a lot of our customers want to be able to just go in there and make the edits themselves, or export out these listings or providers, based on filters or things for, other uses within their community. And so, like I said, the data is yours. You have the ability to access it and do whatever you want with it. So that's really what the back-end tools with the network of care are. So I've been talking for about 30 minutes straight here. I figure this might be a good time to stop talking and see if there's any questions out there with the group.
Can't hear anything.
Just remember to unmute your computer or your phone to have him hear you, so. It's a lot of information.
Yeah. So it sounds like maybe I either did a really good job explaining it or I did a horrible job.
Didn't mute anything.
It's not over here. I saw it over here.
Oh.
No, you did a very good job.
Yeah, so I think one of the questions that comes up often is how do we build and maintain and vet the service directory? And I try to cover that now at the beginning and make sure it's really clear that the customer does own that data. Nothing goes in there without the final thumbs up from the customer and themselves. And really, we don't have a bone to pick in that fight. It's we have some suggestions, of what might go in there. We can provide you with this boilerplate inclusion policy, but we really encourage our customers to modify this as they see fit for their particular jurisdiction and what their needs are in their particular region. So, we can give you some of our customers like to include private practitioners, for-profit private practitioners. Other customers of ours are really focused on nonprofit organizations and government entities and those NGOs, those type of things. So it's really up to the customer what they want to include. Some of our customers are hospital authorities, so they include their entire provider network in addition to all of the other nonprofits and social services agencies, government provided and everything else that are out there. So it does vary from customer to customer.
Okay. So we could change the verbiage in that section.
100%. We encourage you to, actually. A couple other quick ones. The community calendar. This is open to the public. Let's see if Terrence. Yeah. So, this is again something that if there's activities in your community that you want to publish on the calendar, we've got the ability to do this. It's actually open. Anybody can add an event. This isn't locked down in the entire 19, 20-year history of the company. This has never been abused or used for evil, if you will. So, the whole idea here is that, if somebody's, got a health fair going on at the high school, it's an easy place to put it, women's support group. It's just another way for, these groups out in your community to publicize and advertise, some of the activities that they may have that are going on there. And then, last but not least, emergency services is pretty important. I usually try to, I forgot to show this, but, this is up front and center. Some of our customers will actually put a big link right on the homepage to get to emergency services. So, all of the local and regional and obviously national emergency services, are available at one click away.
Eric, this is Liz. Thank you so much for this presentation. I've seen this before, and I'm always so impressed with how robust this site is. Can you tell me something about what the process looks like of working with a community to set that up? What do they need to have ready, and how long does that process take?
Yep, no, that's a great question. So typically, what happens once the contract gets signed? As we typically look for like a point person, to really channel a lot of the communication through, it just makes it a lot easier for us if, it's all coming from one person. But they obviously can be getting, on the customer side, that information and input can be coming from, an unlimited number of participants. And so at that point, we typically try to find out, what do you have already? There might, a lot of our customers may have information that they don't even know that they have. For instance, like a list of entities they contract with, that we can get from the budget group or something like that. Secondly, we typically tend to find out, what their relationship is with the local 211, and, can we partner with 211 to get data from them, and then potentially at some point, maybe reciprocate. San Diego is one of our oldest customers, and we actually partner with their 211 pretty extensively. In fact, we sync up, we send any changes to the service directory database. We send those changes back and forth to each other digitally every night. So if a change comes through on the 211 side, we can make that change and have it reflected within like 24 hours on our site, and vice versa. If a service provider comes through our site and says, hey, we moved down the street, we can make sure that that change is passed over to the local 211. That's the perfect scenario. There's other times where it's the opposite end of the spectrum, where we get virtually no participation or assistance from the local 211. At that point, we have to roll up our sleeves and dig into our bag of tricks that we've learned over the last 18 or 19 years to get all that information, so we have a nice, robust service directory for our customer. The majority of cases is somewhere in between those two. It's not the San Diego example, but it's not the blockade example either. It's some level of cooperation and data sharing between us, our customer, and hopefully the local 211 to make sure that we've got all of our bases covered. So that's how it works for the service directory. And then at that point, we do all the other things, to build the first beta version of the site. It's public facing in the sense that we can send you a URL for you to take a look at the site and review it, but it's not something that, we're listing in our, public marketing site or in our site portal, right? So if you come to our marketing site, you can find any of our customer sites, right here. We wouldn't include the beta site in that. We would wait until obviously it launches live. And so at that point, we give you a beta version. The customer we give you, it varies, but it's typically a couple of weeks is really all folks need to just take a look and make sure that the site is what they want. They make any changes that we need to make to it. And then once everybody's happy with it, we push it live. And at that point, it's the annual maintenance kicks in, and because we start maintaining that site from day one, with all the content and the service directory and making sure everything's up to date. And then at that point, you're off and running. I have a document I can share with Bridget, and she can distribute that is, it's like a best practices document. It's something that Kathy here that runs our content team and I have pulled together with the help of some of our customers on how to be successful. What to do once your site is public and live. A launch event is typically recommended. That's a good way to publicize it, maybe invite some press along. If you've got a local elected official, they love to get a little bit of attention for things like this. And really the big benefit of having the elected official there is that allows you to get, newspaper coverage, potentially television coverage about the product, about the launch, which then gets the word out in the community that this is a service that you are now providing and folks should take advantage of it. So I can send that along as well. And it has a little bit about just best practices all around on how to be successful with the network of care.
Hello, this is Tom. I just wanted to build on Liz's question and ask you, once it goes live, what's your protocol for getting feedback from customers?
So when you say getting feedback from customers, like if you want to make changes or edits to the site after it goes live?
Yes, or you want to find out how satisfied, you have a way you find out whether or not we as customers are in fact satisfied with the product.
Yep, that's a great question. So maybe two things to address that. One, at any point in time, you can make any changes to the site that you want, right? That's part of the ongoing maintenance. So through the request work, you don't like the banner picture here, you've got something that you want to change to that or anything, you can always come through here and request the work, and make that work item, reflected in the site. As I said, we typically turn those around in 36 to 48 hours tops. And, and you can even tell us it's an emergency, we need this up as soon as possible, and someone will typically jump on it right away for you. Outside of that, quite honestly, it varies. We do reach out to our customers from time to time. Some of our customers are really happy, but pretty hands-off. Their site gets quite a bit of traffic.
Eric, excuse me, this is Liz. I don't think Tom means the customer. I think he means the consumer, the user from the community.
Ah, consumer. Gotcha. No, not necessarily. There is not really a feedback, button necessarily on how, for them to give feedback on the site. I think really the main judge, or metric of satisfaction from the consumer would be, really the site visits, and how the site's being utilized, any of the, how many of these detailed service listings are being, accessed. That's really what the goal of the site is. And so, getting these numbers to be something that's reflective, and proportional to the, the size of your service area is pretty important to us as well, because we want the site to be utilized.
Can we build in a feedback form that when people, before you leave, when they click off, one of those before you leave, could you answer 2 questions kind of thing?
100%. Absolutely. Right. In fact, we've done similar, those types of tools. We've done similar, it would be really easy. Here's one on one of our veteran sites where, they can run through here and actually do almost like a reverse 211. They've got a group here. This just sends an email to an inbox at this group here, the Peak Military Care Network, would then respond to. We could just as easily set up a feedback form like this for your site that allowed consumers to send that feedback directly to, say, an email account that you set up that someone could go through every day or once a week or something and review all of that feedback. And then that way you could learn maybe some changes that you might want to make to the site that you could request from us through the request work portal here. Would that address the?
Perfect. Yes. Thank you. That would be great. Tom, do you think that would,
that would be very helpful.
Yeah, we'd be absolutely open to that, 100%.
I know too that up in Fox Valley that they did some beta testing with live people. So having people kind of be a part of small groups of different people who are exploring things for their loved ones and people that have, so consumers, but they did it. I don't think it was very researchy. They just wanted to get some feedback, and it really helped make the site better for them. So.
This is Chelsea. Can you hear me?
Yep.
This isn't really a question for Eric, but more just for our group in terms of, I guess, yeah, I have some thoughts or things that I just feel like we need to discuss on our group about the unique situation of our 5 counties in terms of, just a discussion about the utility of an online database like this. So, I mean, if some of those discussions have already happened and I just wasn't part of the group then, or if we're still planning to talk about those now that we've all seen this presentation. Providing the transcript, which you did, I'm not sure which community the transcript was from. I read through all of that and I thought that was helpful.
Yeah, that was from the Fox Valley group.
So are we planning as a steering committee to discuss this later?
I think we need to kind of have some sort of forward motion on this. We've been kind of waiting to get a prototype get off the ground. So I don't know if you've had a chance to see the cost. I know that some of us have talked with in coalitions about this, and some of us haven't had a lot of time to do this in our coalition work. The costs are combined across 5 counties. So we're going to have to kind of make some decisions fairly quickly because we want to, our budget would mean that we have to use some of the money from this year and then probably some money from next year to do the setup now and then do the first year of the product being up and running and usable. So we want to make some decisions very, very quickly, I think. We have a lot of those resources already through our asset mapping and resource guides that we've been developing, and some nursing students that have done some work behind the scenes to capture some of our behavioral health information. So I think in that realm we're okay. We're going to be able to do what we need to share information with the developers. But yeah, I think we need to get a read on people. So do we want to maybe have any final questions for Eric, and then?
Well, so yeah, this is Chelsea. I don't really think I have any questions for him right now. I just want to have more of that conversation within our steering committee. So if we're going to have that right now as part of the Zoom call or as at a separate time, I'm okay with either one.
Okay. Well, let's start that conversation now. Are there any other questions for Eric for right now? Go ahead.
Eric, this is Frank Mexdorf. Can you hear me okay?
I can, Frank. Thanks.
Yeah. Just a question involving, well, first of all, my background is NAMI. So a question about support groups. We see that, well, what I think is that a lot of people, instead of coming to a live support group, are using technology to try to get answers to their questions. And I see a lot of benefit to what you bring to the table here. But I'm just curious as to whether you know of any of the other users of your services that are actually providing some sort of online support group.
So are you thinking, or are you referring to something more like a live chat type of
possibly, yes.
You know, we've actually had a couple customers ask us about that. I'd have to get back to the group on what we've done with that as far as maybe potentially integrating that into the network of care. You know, so someone could, you know, if a customer, you know, had staff available to respond to consumers, you know, in a live fashion that would come to the site, you know, and say, hey, you know, I would like to be able to chat with, you know, a real live person, you know, through the internet versus on a phone call. I know that that's something that you know, we've explored for our customers, but I couldn't tell you right away if that's something that they went ahead and moved forward with or not. You know, we are a web company. You know, we're a technology company that just, you know, we focus on this product and social services agencies. But I mean, that's definitely something that we could do and would be open to, you know, exploring further with any customer of ours that wanted to implement something like that, for sure.
Thank you.
So, Eric, this is Tom, have you deployed this on a regional basis like this where there's 5 rural counties?
Absolutely. So, you know, thank you. You reminded me of one of the things I didn't say, you know, in all the years that we've been around, we're in 28 or 29 states at this point. We've got about 800 sites, you know, across all the different flavors of the network of care. A lot of these sites that we build, you know, particularly if they're AAAs, you know, for aging, or if they're, you know, there's a lot of states behavioral health is managed at a regional level. So, you know, if it's a very populated place, it could be just one county, but, you know, if in more rural places, it could be more than one county. You know, I think a good example of that would be here, and I can just show it to you visually, would be, but yes, to answer your question, it happens quite a bit. In fact, here in Maryland, if you can see on my screen, these colors, you know, so this would be one region, one site, right? You know, these 2 counties, Frederick and Carroll, are one site. You know, all of these are one site. But then, you know, the really populated areas like Anne Arundel County, which I use for the demo, or City of Baltimore even has, you know, it's so densely populated, they've got their own site specifically for Baltimore. But, you know, some of the others are more regional based. So the answer to that is yes, and we do it either way.
Thank you, Eric. A follow-up question. Bridget, have we identified with Eric or whoever from the vendor some places we can benchmark who have attempted to do application to see what their experience has been?
Yeah, actually, so we've been working with the Fox City folks to talk about, and they are the ones who kind of, for us in Wisconsin, have piloted it, and then they're sharing it also with Brown County, Green Bay. So they've expanded their service area with their web platform. So they've actually done that document that Chelsea was talking about with the interview with Beth Clay. they've done quite a bit to look at user data and what we're finding that, so like I think it was 87% of people that use the site go and access care, or at least it's very indicative. So we can't get the HIPAA data level of information that they actually make the contact with the provider, but there's ways to find out from how people are interfacing with the platform. So they've done quite a bit of work up there already. So,
Tom, this is Liz. I know that the Fox Valley's also, this is not their first platform they used. They started with, they had some false starts, and they've done an enormous amount of research. So they started with a different platform, and things did not work out as they'd hoped. They did a great deal of research and then started with this network of care, and I know that they're really, really satisfied with it. But they...
Yeah, I'm just, from my background, I would try and get Eric or someone else there to give us 2 to 3 other places that we could talk to someone to get their perspective, and besides the Fox Valley.
Yeah, if you would like some contacts for references from a couple of other customers, yeah, I'd be happy to provide those.
Yeah, appreciate that, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just send the best practices document and some references to Bridget, and she can distribute those to the group.
Yep, that's great.
And then I had one more. I'm sorry to keep this up, but how do you guys measure? Whether or not? What's your business case that demonstrates that you're adding value by buying this product?
Yeah, so I mean, I think again, to keep coming back to this, the site metrics is really one of the big ways that we do that. And another thing I can share with you is one of our customers, actually Terrence, the customer in Texas that I showed you their, briefly their children and family site. They worked with some academics to just do a little bit of little legwork and research on, really what it takes to, run a call center, like a 211 call center, and what it costs to, to make a referral through a phone call. And I'm just pulling this off the top of my head. It could be a little bit off, but I think, the range was somewhere between $15 and $30 a call, for a call center to make those referrals, over the phone. And, you can see, in the detailed listings here on the service directory component, so these are all of the individual service providers, and the number of page views, that are happening here. These can be considered, if you will, online referrals. And so, when these number into, hundreds and thousands, and you multiply that by the $15 to $30 number, you can start to get a pretty decent feel for the return on investment on the site.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
One quick question. This is Janice. I'm looking at this. Is this website, just if I could get clarification, is for all 5 counties to enter on?
Yeah, it could be all 5 counties. And I think for us, as I'm sure in other rural areas, and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but we would be probably putting some of our neighboring bigger communities resources on there as well. So your Madison, things that we don't have here locally that we typically would be referring people to Dubuque or Madison or other places. We would include some of those when they're pertinent to our area.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you for that answer, Bridget.
Yeah, and I think a perfect example is we're statewide in Massachusetts, but the town of Nantucket wanted their own network of care sites, maybe 2 or 3 different ones for a couple of different things. And obviously, there aren't, an exhaustive list of service providers on the town of Nantucket as being an island. And so it includes a lot of those service providers that are on the mainland, in Cape Cod. So absolutely, when we put in the service directory, basically, what you ask us to, but we really only, the pricing is really just based on the population of the service area. So we're not gonna, add the population of Madison, to your service area and charge you accordingly. That's not the way it works.
Good answers. Okay. So I don't think we're going to be making a whole lot of choices between now and 1 today, but I think we do need to have a follow-up conversation. Can I just get a quick read, I guess, from people? Can we do a quick, like maybe half hour? I'd like to get moving on this if we are comfortable with it, but I don't think we are ready to make that decision right now today. But I do want to get moving on this. So could we do like a half hour at some point if I send a doodle poll?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Rob.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
So that's what I will do. I will get some information out from Eric to everybody that we requested, and maybe have a bit more. If you have any other questions that you think we need to be asking between now and that half-hour conversation, we'll try to get some answers to you and then have that conversation. And then I would love to move forward on this, hopefully. But
can I make one other suggestion, Eric? It is the case that anybody can go on to these sites and search them, right? So you can look at some of the other communities' pages, between now and that half-hour conversation. You can go and pretend that you're a customer living in Anne Arundel County and sort of check out what's available there and see what that feels like to you from a customer perspective. And I would urge people to do that.
Absolutely, and as you can see, the trilogyir.com, the page that I've got up right now, www.trilogyir.com. This is just our marketing page. It's just a simple one-pager, but it has right here at the top. You can you can go by product, by state that has that product. Pick a region, and hit go, and it'll take you to that customer site, and then you can explore it from there.
So I would encourage everyone to do that between now and the discussion we have.
Yeah, I'd make that more specific, Liz. I would just say that we pick some places, Eric could recommend, whatever, and we each take one and we actually do a walkthrough of those sites. And then when we come together, we can share what we experienced.
That's a great
so Bridget,
idea.
that would mean we do a walkthrough. That means Frank and Carol get assigned X, Janice gets Y, Chelsea gets, another. And then when we come together, we'll have something practical to talk about.
Okay. What are the odds that we're all going to go there and pick the same of the 218 sites?
No, she will tell us which ones.
I will assign.
Okay.
So let me just review. So I'm going to send a best practices document. I'm going to send a few reference customers for you to reach out to, which I definitely have. I'm also going to send links to, say, a half dozen kind of reference sites, if you will, for, that are worthy of exploring to get a good feel for what the network of care is. And I'll vary those. I won't make them all huge like San Diego or Pierce County, Washington. I'll include some smaller regional entities so you can get a feel for potentially, something that might be a little more, closer to the 5 counties that you guys are in. Those are 3 things that we need.
Yeah.
Oh, and then lastly, the document about basically the call center versus online referral.
Yeah, that will help us.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, everybody, for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for making time for us.
Absolutely. We'll be in touch soon.
Have a good afternoon.
Yep, bye.
I will send the doodle, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Bridget. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, well, that answered